Hello and welcome back to the channel, A Light of Source. My name is Anna Maria and I am a Pleiadian, a light renegade, and an earthbound ambassador, here to share messages with you from beyond the veil, from our brothers and sisters in the stars and beyond. Um, for those of you who have been following the channel for a little while now, um, following Cassidy's videos as well, you'll know that the Light Renegades have been going through some pretty big cycles of transformation, on and off screen. And the last 2-3 weeks have been a bit of a roller coaster for all of us, myself included. Um, yeah, and I thought I would take today to just speak a little bit about that. I haven't been showing up on these videos the way I would like. I think I've just been so nervous up until now, so uncomfortable in front of the camera, so uncomfortable sharing of myself that really I've been coming in, rattling off a message from the PHC and kind of closing it there. But I've been expecting this video for a while now. I didn't know if I had it in me, but here we are after a few cycles of ego death and rebirth and more ego death and more rebirth. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. Um, there will be a message from the PHC at the end, I think. There isn't anything pre-channeled today, but they may want to pop in. But I'll post a timestamp below for those of you who want to skip ahead. But it does feel important to share my story. I think it's many of our stories. I think each of us have a story that resembles that of others, and it's in speaking about it that um, we see ourselves differently, that we understand um, our own struggles, hearing the struggles of others. So where to start? I guess I grew up in a family that was spiritual. So we grew up with meditations. There was a lot of fear around the spiritual community. Forgive the lights, we're going through a bit of an ice storm here. Um, oh, yeah, and I was guided to sit this way today. Not sure why, but going with anything that's feeling right now. So yeah. Um, yeah, and early on, I think there was this call to close chakras. So from a young age, believed in guides, knew I had healing powers, little exercises with my father as a kid to um, do astral projection, healing, drawing, drawing faces of colleagues of his, pulling names of future bosses. These were all little games that he would come home with from, I guess, his own spiritual practice and play with me. And it was just understood that, you know, Anna Maria could connect. And then there was almost this shift. I guess that's when his spiritual practice maybe took a bit of a backseat. It's when the fear set in. It's when we were doing daily practices of closing my chakras, and slowly spirituality fell to the wayside. Um, I've always I've always seen myself up until recently as a very average human being, never really excelling at anything, never having any strong passions. But looking back now, what I always had was this knowingness. I never doubted what was beyond the veil. I never doubted that I had a team of guides around me at all times. I never doubted that there was more to what I was living than what I could see. But like a lot of us, um, elementary to high school to CEGEP or CEGEP here in Quebec, then university, then dropping out of university, then working full time, then back to school. And all of this really did take a back seat. Um, it wasn't until about 2013, where I found the Michael teachings. For those of you who are familiar, Michael is an entity, a collective group of souls that present themselves as Michael, a teacher to um, those on the spiritual path. And I found a forum of Michael's students. Now, I never identified as a Michael student, but I did see truth in much of the teachings. At the same time, I discovered the Seth materials, and that kind of sent me in a bit of a different direction. The Michael teaching forums actually would speak of Pleiadians. Now, there was no talk about star seeds or anything like that. It was more from a historical standpoint that there were Pleiadians. In fact, in this forum setting, the Pleiadians were villainized, almost mocked for what they did to humanity. So, just a little bit of history. Just as we see the Anunnaki now, the Pleiadians were the bad guys at one point in humanity's history. A young race themselves, not understanding that the souls that were in these bodies that then later got transferred to human bodies were conscious beings. Um, and when a group of Pleiadians saw it, that's when things started to shift. Some actively worked to get these souls off planet. Um, and I think you can kind of imagine how the story goes. It was the Pleiadians' chance to start growing by protecting another race, and not everyone got on board right away. But um, over hundreds of thousands, or I don't know if it's hundreds of thousands of years, but a few dozens of thousands of years, the Pleiadians evolved into what we know today. Similarly, I'm just going to draw this comparison for those who are still maybe grappling with the idea of the Anunnaki having returned. I think it's the same story, It was a collective of beings that were not consciously aware of what they were doing. And if they were, it was just a reflection of where they were in their own evolution. And I'm going to draw a third comparison right now, but it's where humanity is. Um, if we take a moment to pause and think how humans are going to be regarded in a few 100,000 years. If our history comes to light, or when our history comes to light, once we've evolved past this point, once we are the Pleiadians of another system, once we are helping a budding civilization grow, we will need to make amends. We will need to, I guess, atone for what we have done as a collective. And just like the Pleiadians and just like the Anunnaki, some of us are more involved in, the corruption or the misdeeds than others. Some of us are passively involved, looking at the consumption of animals. We grew up not realizing that there was anything wrong with that, and it wasn't until certain parts of our collective evolution that people started to raise a flag. And that's not to say that if you eat meat, you're not an evolved soul, of course not, but there are different levels of, uh, I guess, awareness around the consumption of anything living. Um, and yeah, it's just a question of once we get past this, how we'll be judged. So I've tangented now from Pleiadians to Anunnaki to humans. So let me roll it back. Yeah, I came across this forum that was talking about the Pleiadians, and right away I didn't villainize them like the others, and that's when I started to realize that while I recognize the truth in a lot of the Michael teachings or the Michael channeled content, um, my the way I absorbed it was different than the Michael students. Um, I met a friend at that time who's turned out to be a Pleiadian brother, and that was, I guess, the beginning of my connection with my people. Neither of us realized at the time, I guess, what we were or what we were to each other, but we were family. And it wasn't until many years later when I came across a Lori Ladd video randomly started COVID, and she was talking, I guess, about star seeds, and she says, "If you're watching this video, you're a star seed." And I thought, "Holy shit, I don't know what that is, but that's me." And that's when I really started deep diving into everything starseed related. I started trying to figure out what my lineage was. Immediately, Pleiadian did feel right. I think it does for a lot of us. I think there are many Pleiadians here, so you will come across, a lot of people that identify as Pleiadian either because they have lives there currently or because they have lived out more recent lives there. I do also have Andromedan, Lyran, and Orion lineage, so past important past lives or grand cycles rather from these planets. But my family, my life right now is on the Pleiades, so I proudly identify as Pleiadian, and yeah, that was really the start of everything. And that's when I started to look at self. I was, at this time when I came across these videos, I was a ball of anxiety, just a very anxious, stressed out woman trying to figure out how to please everyone, how to um, be the successful daughter and sister and employee that I thought was expected of me. And I guess in the years leading up to that, trying to I was trying to find my place as an independent woman in a very patriarchal family. Um, I come from um, a line of strong women who were never allowed to shine. And like my mother and grandmothers before me, we kept quiet. Um, we were polite. We were helpful. We made ourselves useful. That was our role, to support the family, to support the men, to support each other, but to do it at our own expense. For years, I was the supporting role in my family members' lives. I went for a tarot reading years ago, and I was asked point blank why I wasn't the star of my own life, and that rattled my cage. And I think that was the start of trying to understand responsibility to self versus that to others, because I had skewed so much to the one side of supporting everyone in my surroundings. There was a call to take a break from that life, from babysitting for family members multiple times a week, from um, being everyone's everything and not leaving any time for self. And when COVID hit, for me, it was a godsend. And I know that a lot of people suffered, and I'm not, um, I recognize just how lucky I was to have been in a financial position to be self-sufficient. I kept my job and I was working from home, so I really didn't have any of the hardship that I know many people did experience. Uh, but COVID for me was an opportunity to take a deep breath and to reevaluate. Borders were closed. We weren't allowed to leave our homes. There was a curfew. My family, my immediate family was on the other side of the border. So legally, I couldn't cross to go and assist. And the first time I realized the level of relief that I felt at not being able to run to their side to support them during that difficult period, um, that really came as a shock. And this was around the time of the deep dive into this world, this world that asks you to dig deep and to look within and to understand what you're seeing and what you're feeling and sit in it and analyze it, observe it. You know the drill. So I started to do that with everything that was coming up, and it got ugly. A lot of shame, a lot of guilt for not wanting to continue the way I had been going for decades. And I'm a few years in now to this new way of showing up, and it's a lot more balanced, just like the pendulum had to swing from, people pleasing, self-sacrificing to putting a hold on everything and just trying to figure out what I needed. And now I think it's kind of come back to the middle where I have the ability to show up for self and show up for others in a balanced, measured way. Um, but it was a process. It was a it was a long and hard road to get there, in a family that is to a certain degree still very codependent and learning to adjust themselves to this new version of their daughter and sister. And yeah, um, I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for the love that's allowed this process to not break all ties. I know they found it difficult. And to those watching now and to those who will be watching in the future, thank you for letting me go, for letting me figure out what I needed. And yeah, so I guess I'm not sure where this story's going. Yeah, I think I think it brings us to today, where the last, I guess, 3 years just have been massive shifts. I'm talking at the beginning, it was every month I was a new version of myself. And now it's getting to the point where it's every week. There are these death, I'm in a death and rebirth cycle. And every week I choose to go forward with the new energies, because it is easy, and there are weeks where I say, I made all of that up. I'm still that that version of me, because something will come right back around and remind me of, who I was, old patterns, um, old thought patterns, these old, these looping thoughts of, what my responsibility is, and da 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 da. It's a constant, um, it is right now, it's a constant battle between knowing what I need to do and how I need to move forward in this world, and having, I guess, just all the voices convincing me to to um, backpedal, backslide. Um, so every week is practically every week feels like a rebirth where I say, um, I recognize that I may not have jumped a floor, but I've taken a step forward and trying to move forward with that and um, leave the chatter in the background. Um, a few weeks ago, it occurred to me. I've been going through ascension symptoms, and this can include anything from body aches and pains, headaches. The strangest one I was telling Cassidy, and she experienced it too, was mouth pain. My entire mouth, teeth, gums, jaws, muscles was in serious pain, and I thought, that's it, I'm losing my teeth. Obviously, I haven't. There was something going on energetically. And I realized that when things like that happen, in the middle of the pain, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, thank you. Something's happening. There's some upgrade going on that's beyond my comprehension, but I was starting to look at that and be thankful for it. And after recent conversations with a really good friend who's been down for the last 2 weeks, I was able to draw a comparison to something he was saying about his suffering. Sorry, my eyes twitching. And I'm starting to look at my suffering, my pain, the situations I'm going through, the turmoil, the situations that send you send you spiraling. And I'm starting to say thank you, and I'm starting to see that each one is the equivalent of an ascension symptom. It is an opportunity for growth, it's an opportunity to project forward. And I'm also thankful for falling. I'm thankful for the days where I don't eat right. I'm thankful for the days where um, I watch too much Ted Lasso. I'm thankful for the days where I don't show up the way I'd like to, because it's those times where that don't feel in alignment that make me realize what alignment feels like. And then when I'm in alignment, I feel it that much more. Yeah, today started off really heavy, and all of a sudden there was this shift, and I was doing everything I needed to do and dancing and singing along. The time just flew by and things got done. And I think right now my goal is to just push forward in that way, not push, glide forward in that way. When spirit says to take a bath, if I've got something to do, I'll take a bath. Um, when I get these intuitive nudges to move in a specific direction, yeah, I'm doing it. So I think that's a little bit, oh my goodness, yeah, it's been 23 minutes. So that's a good place to maybe wrap up today. I just wanted to give a little bit of background. I know, like I said, this has been something that I've been feeling has needed to come out. I don't know if the sharing is a step for me, um, a marker of my progress, if it's more for those who have felt something similar who may want to reach out and just talk about it. Um, that's also documentation, I guess, for the future that, uh, yeah, we're all going through the same things. One of the things the Light Renegades would like to do is start to collect starseed stories. Anyone who would like to share theirs, we would the the idea right now is to post them on our website and have a collection of starseed stories for those who are feeling lost and alone. The From the starseed who's been awake for 10 years and hasn't had anyone to talk to about it, to the one who's newly awakened and freaking freaking out. We want anyone comfortable sharing their contact information to do so, anyone who would like to stay anonymous to do so. But there's something in the sharing. A lot of times we identify with our past experiences, and that's something that I'm trying to detach from a little bit, recognizing that I am where I am because of where I've been, but maybe not attaching to my story as much as I would have in the past. The anxious, um, you know, everyone's got those terms of this is who I am, this is what's happened to me, and it's defined me. And I think there's value in honoring where you've been without, yeah, without attaching to it. So um, I'd invite you all to sit with your story and what it would look like from if you were to detach from it a little bit. Um, and yeah, I'd also invite you to take a look at something that you're going through in your life right now and compare it to something you've been through before. I think many of us can look at past situations that broke us, past relationships, past traumas, and see the caveat here is that, there's different levels of trauma. So I want to honor all of them and I don't want to generalize, but I think by and large, we all have something that's happened to us in the past that we can look back on and see the lesson in and contrast that to something that's happening right now in your life and say, there will be a lesson. Can I see what it is now? And can that soften how I navigate through it? Um, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just see if the PHC want to come through. Yeah, so just give me a moment. Hello, we are the Pleiadian High Council, and we are overjoyed to be here today. We want to thank this loved one for trusting the process. We know how unnerving it is to do live channelings, um, especially at this point in her channeling journey. We thank her and we thank you for being here today. It is, in fact, through starseed stories that we connect to other versions of ourselves, see ourselves through other eyes, understand our stories better. Each of you has lived an experience that you have not seen the full picture of necessarily, and in hearing what others have gleaned of their experiences, there are nuggets of wisdom there. We are excited for the Starseed Story project that will be emerging from the Light Renegade shop. Today's message is about time. So often, time is felt as something chasing you, something that there is not enough of. We know that you have heard teachings of this before, but we would like to invite you to step outside of time as best as you can in your lives with your current responsibilities. Play with time. If you've got 30 minutes, see if you can stretch that out. And what we mean by this is at the start of the 30-minute period, sit in stillness and request to make the most of that 30 minutes. See what you can do with it. For some, it may feel like 45. For others, it may pass in the blink of an eye as you dance around the house. We want you to start manipulating time a little bit more. If you've got 5 minutes in the morning and think that that is not enough to meditate, we tell you it is. Sit with the alarm for 5 minutes. Intend for it to feel like 15 or have the effect of a 15-minute meditation. And simply sit with self. If you feel called to bring energy in and start to circulate it around the body, you will notice your energy levels start to change over time. If you do this with the intention of healing self, whether you have any sort of official, and we say official with in quotation marks, official training or not, intending to heal is healing. You do not need Reiki symbols. You do not need external sources. By giving yourself simply 5 minutes every day or every other day, bringing light in through the crown and intending for it to go to the areas that need it. If you feel a specific chakra point is in need of balancing or alignment, send light there and intend for the light to balance and align. It is simple as that. And you can do this in 5 minutes, just as you can in 15. Coming back to time, we would also like you to look at how you spend your days. For fun, to take a pen and paper and to put down the hours that you spend at work, the hours that you spend sleeping, the hours that you spend with friends and families and activities and groceries and sitting in front of the TV. And see if you can extract moments from the days for your practice. We know that you're busy. We honor the lives that you've cultivated for yourselves that have brought you to this point. To be a full-time employee and a parent and a grandparent and a volunteer, to be a friend, to be a busy human, and be at the point in your evolution where you are watching videos like this, that is commendable. But what if you were to take just that extra 5 minutes every day for your practice? 5 minutes without devices, without distraction, or with as limited amount of distraction as possible, and simply sit with self. We've discussed this before, but now we would like you to find the time, to create the time in your day for this. And see how it feels. And if you're called to make it 10, even better. We're so proud of each and every one of you. Everyone on this channel, everyone watching this channel now and in the future. You are creating new earth, regardless of your level of active involvement. Each of you has signed up for something great, taking on different roles, both in your human waking hours and in your sleeping state. Each of you contributing Thank you. We love you, and we will leave you here for today. Until next week. All right. So that was this week's message. Yeah, there is something in actively carving out time, stealing time from your busy lives, and making space for spirit, making space for connecting with your body, connecting with your higher self, your inner child, with your team of light. Um, I'm going to leave it here for today. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.